Hello parents, this is Mr. Ma here. I just wanted to quickly introduce to you guys some online tools that we've been developing or have developed over the last few years to help parents who are staying at home with their children about how to access their learning still. So I'm just going to quickly introduce you guys to Alamanda Maths. This is a website that I've built over the last 5 to 6 years, ever since we've started at Alamanda. Basically, it's pretty much all of the math websites with tutorials and notes in terms of all of the standards from the Victorian curriculum from year 2 all the way up towards 10A, which is kind of VCE standards. So you guys can access this at www.AlamandaMaths.com. It is completely free, and it is one of our main resources that we actually use at school. So a couple of things to introduce you guys to. Basically, to access all the information is click the 3 lines, and what that will do is that will bring you out a new menu. It has pretty much a lot of the information in terms of our continuums as well as year level descriptors, which means that it shows you kind of at what year level, at each year level, from prep all the way up towards year 7, 8, 9, 10. In terms of what are the main concepts that are covered at each year level with that. If you want more fine-grained details, once again, you can click on the 3 lines. It will pop out the menu. Under numeracy domains, if you hit the plus sign, what I've broken it down to is basically all of the major concepts that is covered in maths from year 2 all the way up towards year 10. So if I just expand the algebra concept, hit the little plus sign, basically, it has all the lessons from year 7 all the way up towards 10A, which is kind of VC Unit 1 and 2 type materials with that. So everything that's in the brackets shows you the year levels that that is associated with that concept. So for instance, if I have a year 3 student, I expand the angles concept. So over here, this tells me that the basics of angles is for a year 3 standard. And it goes all the way up from, this is the year 4 standards, year 5 standards, year 6 standards, year 7 standards, and then it moves on towards Pythagoras and trigonometry. So each one of the pages, so for instance, if you're looking at wanting to do something with data related, at a year 2 standard, they're just surveying for data, then interpreting and comparing the data displays. If I click onto that, that will actually bring me to a new web page, which actually is associated with that standard. So here, basically, it gives you all the notes that I would normally go and deliver to the class. It talks about the different types of graphs, plus kind of what my teaching notes would be for my class. Also has a few work samples in terms of describing, I guess, what type of activities you can actually go and use. So for those of you guys that are staying at home, this might be a nice, easy activity for you guys to come up with, rather than trying to mad scramble and Google different ideas. Once again, students can come up with a question, come up with a tally and results, and then kind of graphing that as a result with that. So what this actually shows you is that at year 2 or year 3, this is kind of the at-level standard that all year 2 and year 3 students are expected to be able to perform at. And what's good about this is that rather than you guys having to go and scramble and try to go and find information about it on YouTube, what I've done is I've scoured YouTube the best that I can to find kind of the best descriptive videos that exist. And so it gives you a chance to just hit play. You can watch the videos along with your children. To actually then look at, I guess, what that standards or look at activities that you can actually do with this class. So that's kind of how that starts. Once again, if you're looking at different topics, so this goes through pretty much all of the Victorian curriculum standards from year 2 all the way up towards year 10. If you've got a secondary student, so one of the big topics is Pythagoras' theorem. So I can click on the Pythagoras' theorem page. And once again, it has pretty much all of the learning objectives, what the students need to know, understand, and be able to do in order to demonstrate success with this topic. What Pythagoras' theorem is. So what's good about this is that for parents that have been out of high school for 20 plus odd years, this is a one quick stop resource that you guys can use with your students, rather than having to go and research it all yourself to go and figure out, oh yeah, this is what I did 20 years ago. It's got some worked examples of what success looks like. It's got some teaching ideas too. Probably the higher end type materials has some interactives that the students can actually click and have a bit of a play around with it rather than just watching videos and doing textbook questions all day. So there is some games that are involved. And once again, it's got the best kind of YouTubes that I've scoured throughout the years in terms of describing what those videos are. And what I've done in the last few years is students have been creating their own videos and then submitting that, and then which eventually I would like to actually have the student generated videos go and replace any of the old YouTube videos that are there. So this might be a great time where students can actually submit videos of their own work and then drop that into Schoolbox. And then what I can do is pull the videos off from Schoolbox and actually replace instead of the YouTube videos that I take from other people's pages, to actually go and generate our own pages with that. Cool. So that's kind of Alamanda Maths. So once again, it's a resource that pretty much, if you click on the 3 lines, that expands the menu and has all the concepts from year 2 upwards towards shape, towards percentages. Anything that's in the brackets will tell you what that year level standard is. So here, to describe and draw 2D shapes is a year 2 standard, and it goes all the way up towards connecting 3D objects with their nets, which is a year 5 standard. Second thing that I do want to introduce you guys to is especially for our older students, we do have something that's called OneNote. OneNote will pretty much, if the students have been assigned to the OneNote classes, they should have access to OneNote, which is accessible by Office 365. So a couple of things that they can show in OneNote is that basically it's the same thing as what we've done with AlamandaMaths, except that it's more of a table in terms of showing what the year 4, year 5, year 6, year 7, year 8, year 9, and then 10, 10A standards are. So in this case over here, I'm just taking a look at ADAV's scope and sequence. So there's 3 main, domains in terms of the Victorian curriculum standards. So we've got the number, we've also got measurement and geometry, and we also have statistics and probability. For most of the students that have been with us for a few years, when they log into their OneNote, they should see something similar to this. So through our goal setting processes that we've established at Alamanda, students should be able to go through all of these standards and identify what is their future goals that they need to actually work on. So in Adav's case, he's identified that he's obviously a very, very capable student, but there's still a few more areas that he probably needs to explore in order to really master the continuum. So for him, he's identified that standard deviation is probably a topic that he needs to further explore in order to improve in that area with that. So once again, this is kind of the global map in terms of the Victorian curriculum standards. But when we start to actually go into the more fine-tuned ones, here's an example of his data continuum. So it just laid out a little bit differently. So it goes from the year 6 standards, year 7 standards, year 8 standards, all the way up towards the 10A, which is VC standards. What's good about this is that it pretty much has direct links straight onto AlamandaMaths. So if a student knows that one of their goals is to interpret and compare data displays using dot plots, they can literally just click onto this blue hyperlinked page, and that will actually take them straight towards the AlamandaMaths page, which directly correlates to what that display actually looks like. So once again, it gives them different ideas in terms of what success actually looks like, as well as my notes that I would give my students who were in class, as well as videos that would explain what that actually looks like. And most importantly too is that this also links back to practice questions that are available in the year 7 and year 8 textbooks, which gives them something to actually go and work on. So if I open up the OneNote again, once again, we have different ways to actually describe that. So at a novice level question, we can go into My Math 7, page 528, and you have questions 1 to 3. If they start to get more comfortable with the beginning type materials, then they progress themselves towards the expert level, which goes towards the same textbook, page 530, and then instead of doing questions 1 to 3, they're going to be doing questions 8, 9, and 11. And generally what ends up happening is this probably the next level of work that we'll do is that students can actually submit evidence through OneNote or through Schoolbox. And that way the teachers can actually monitor, I guess, what standards the students are actually working towards. So in this case over here, Adavs has done quite a bit of work because he submitted some evidence with that. So if he's looking at trying to understand standard deviation, he can then click on the calculating standard deviation link, which brings him towards calculating standard deviation. Once again, it's got all my notes, visual representations of what standard deviation looks like, as well as some practice questions that he can now, following watching the videos, he can then go and have a practice while he's at home. So hopefully these videos do help you along. We do know that we are in unprecedented times, and we're always constantly looking at new ways and new technologies to, I guess, make sure that our students at Alamanda don't miss out when they are at home. Once again, any questions, feel free to give the office a call, and we'll be doing our best that we can to answer as many questions as we can with that. Have a good one.